Our next guest is a boxing pioneer. She reinvigorated women's boxing and captured the hearts of sports fans worldwide. In 2016, she became the first female boxer inducted into the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame and was one of the first female fighters introduced into the inaugural class of the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 2020. She is known as the coal miner's daughter, Christy Martin.
Welcome to Title Unboxed. With more than 40 years of experience in the fight game, our host, Doug Ward, will be covering every corner of the ring as we get comfortable between the ropes. We'll talk with both the lesser knowns and the legends, discuss boxing's rich history and current state of the game. We'll also look at today's latest innovations, equipment breakdowns, and insights you won't uncover anywhere else. Join us now as we take a look inside Title Unboxed.
Christy, welcome to Title Unboxed.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Well, we've had a crazy year, but some good things have come out of it. One being your induction into the 2020 International Boxing Hall of Fame. Congratulations on that.
Thank you so much. And yes, it has been a crazy year, but that's, the highlight of not just this year, but lots of years in boxing to get inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame and the first class that they're having women fighters. So to be included in that is a great honor. And, it's very exciting, very exciting.
That's
just a little disappointed that the ceremony didn't get to happen this year.
Yeah.
But, it'll happen. So hopefully this 2021 June will roll around and things will be somewhat back to normal and we'll get to have the induction ceremony.
Yeah. Well, it's been a long time coming for the women to be able to be included in that group, but it's a great bunch of fighters that are being inducted that year.
Going to be a great year. It'll be a lot of fun. I think that I was a little disappointed. I was a lot disappointed when they called me and said, we're not going to have the ceremony. And then, you find out that class of 2021 is going to include Floyd Mayweather and some of those guys. So, maybe it takes a little bit of shine from us, but sure. It doesn't matter. We're still going to be Hall of Famers and we already are Hall of Famers, but actually get the induction ceremony next year. And it'll be great. And it's going to be great to be back with the fans and the legends that still come to sit and listen to their stories and, how they trained and just some of the crazy stories that actually, are true, but you just as a regular person would think no way in hell this could really happen. Yeah. But boxing, if it can happen, it will happen.
Yeah. Well, and you've got a great story of your own. You actually, unlike many fighters that come up through the amateur ranks and have their eyes set on being a professional fighter, that was never your intention as a young woman.
Never growing up thinking that I'm going to be a professional fighter. And you have to remember, back in my time, women weren't even allowed to box in the amateurs. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know there were no boxing gyms close to my home growing up. So I had no idea how serious boxing is. But I wanted the competition I wanted that competition. I wanted to go out there and compete and show people that I guess I was tough. And that's why I entered into the Tough Man contest. Jerry Thomas opened it up in Southern West Virginia to women. And I was, I'm sure one of the first ones to sign up and just never in a million years thinking this is going to be my life for the rest of it.
Right. But you actually won it several times, like three times? 2-3 times?
I won a couple times, like 3 times. And then I went and fought in the World Tough Woman, which was actually small world because it was in Parkersburg, West Virginia. And I went and competed. I won my little area of Beckley, West Virginia. And then I went to a region and then finally to the world. And all those fights happened in West Virginia. So I'm not sure it was too big, but I lost in that World Tough Man tournament to Andrea Deschamps, who later, as a I was able to come back and beat her. So got a little revenge.
Right, where it counted for the most.
Absolutely.
Well, and then you actually didn't have you had a little bit of a rocky start once you turn pro, right? I mean, you start out with a draw, won a couple fights, then you lost one. So you didn't come out gangbusters.
No, I didn't come out on the A side, as all these fighters want to talk about now. I didn't have a promoter. I was definitely called to be an opponent on that first fight. And it was also my first lesson of how boxing works. They called me to come down and fight their girl. I didn't really understand or realize that when a promoter calls you to come fight their girl, that you damn well better knock that girl out, or you're not going to get the decision. Yeah. And it was a 4-round fight. I knocked her down. I feel like beat her up for all 4 rounds, and it was a draw. Yeah. So here I am. I had a pro fight, and I thought I was really just going to have one pro fight. And at the end of the night, I thought, well, I didn't win, I didn't lose. So they asked me to do it again, and I thought, why not? So like 3, 4, 5 weeks later, I fought her again and knocked her out. Knocked her out cold, and they counted I think they could have probably counted to 15. Yeah. And at that point, I was just hooked. I was like, oh my goodness, this is awesome. I mean, the crowd went nuts, and to win by knockout was great. So yeah, I was hooked, just a little deeper by then.
Well, who was training you at that time? Were you trained mostly by yourself, or?
At this point, I had never been in a boxing gym. So I would show up, and a guy on the East Coast, a lot of people probably know him, Billy Mitchum, worked my corner a lot. Guys from, and you may know this name, Richard Christmas. He used to be up in Ohio.
Way back.
Way back. And one of those two guys would be in my corner, and they didn't tell me anything, and I just showed up and fought, basically.
And that was the
start. I tried to watch fights on TV.
What's that?
I tried to watch fights on TV, like emulate what I would see fighters do. And I don't know if it worked too much, but at least it worked well enough for me to win. And I was an athlete, so I was able to beat these other girls that had also never been in the boxing gyms.
But I think that kicked off like a 18 or 19 win streak.
It went for a minute, and but first I had the little hiccup that Deschong beat me. Andrea Deschong, she beat me in the World Tough Woman, and then we had a pro fight, and she beat me the first time, and I rematched her and beat her in a very close decision the second time, and then I think that took off on a pretty good win streak from that point. But it's been a crazy ride.
And your first title you won was the WBC junior welterweight against Beverly.
Yeah, Beverly Shemansky.
Yeah.
And it was more or less, that title was more of a trophy kind of title, because at that point the WBC wasn't truly recognizing women champions or titles, or
they didn't come around till later.
Exactly. I will have to say that one of the big supporters that I had was Jose Suleiman, and he really helped bring women's boxing to the forefront.
Yeah, he's great. So what most people remember, where you really made your big splash, obviously, was where your introduction to the boxing world was on the undercard of the Mike Tyson versus Peter McNeely card. He was coming back out of prison, so the fight had a lot of hype, a lot of spotlight shining on it. And that's where most of the boxing world saw Christy Martin for the first time.
Actually, yes, it was a Tyson card, but it was Tyson versus Bruno. That McNeely card I was not on.
Yeah,
I had been fighting on some really good shows and big shows, but you didn't put me on that. And that was good. That was great, because so much attention was going to Tyson, to that fight. And then, so Tyson's second fight was against Frank Bruno. And that was the fight that really catapulted women's boxing, I think, gave women's boxing a real shot in the arm and a real chance to survive against Cedric O'Grady. So many people thought it's two women. And I of course, I wore my pink, and then I was bleeding early. They thought I would quit, and we just fought harder, both of us. Yeah. I mean, O'Grady's an awesome fighter, And yeah, it was a great fight back and forth. So the fans got
it was a bloodbath. I think that got everybody's attention.
Yes. Yes. I always say that that's the most profitable bloody nose in boxing history.
Right? For real.
For sure.
Did you know at that point what you were heading into, that what that could catapult you into?
I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
I left the arena that night, went to my room. Of course, I had my traditional hot fudge cake afterwards. I went to my room, and then when I got to the room, like my voicemail in my hotel room, the voicemail was full of people like the Jay Leno Show,
Wow.
Good Morning America, all these like famous, big time, awesome stuff, and like it hurt my feelings because I called Seth Polanski, who was the publicist guy at the time, and I'm like, Seth, why would somebody play a joke on me like this? I mean, this is me. And Seth was like, Chrissy, you have no idea. You do not know what's going on down here in the casino. They're not talking about Tyson. They're talking about you.
Oh, wow.
And none of that is a joke. So he came up to the room and, starts writing down numbers and names and calls, all the different people and makes those appearances happen. So I had no idea. I was like blinders on from it. I just fought like I always fought, so I didn't know why it was different.
Yeah. So how did that fight actually come about? How did Don King find you? How did you end up on going from relatively obscurity to being on a Mike Tyson card?
Well, I had signed with King in October of 1993. So I actually fought, my first fight with King was in January of 94 on the very first show held at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. And that was the card that Frankie Randall beat Julio Cesar Chavez on.
Oh, I remember that.
Joe McClellan was on that against Julian Jackson.
Yep.
Simon Brown and Terry Norris. Jesse James Leha fought Azuma Nelson.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like 4 major title fights, and that was my first card with King. Of course, I was only on King Vision. I didn't make American TV time, but I got TV exposure, and like it just kept building. Like he would fight me more often and in different places, and the reaction from the crowd would be, each time would be a little bit bigger, a little bit better, and he started to see, wow, people, she knocks them out, and that's what they want to see.
Yeah.
So I got the opportunity to actually fight on Showtime in February of 96 when the late Tommy Morrison tested positive for HIV. Mm-hmm. And so I got bumped up to the TV time on that show. It was a very, very good fight against Sue Chase. And then, boom, next month I'm back in Vegas. I don't even remember if I left Vegas. And then fought on the Tyson Bruno.
It was a whirlwind after that. I mean.
Absolutely. Yes. It was crazy. Again, I don't know if people can understand that when I say I'm a coal miner's daughter from Southern West Virginia, there's really, literally, 500-700 people in my little town.
Yeah.
So can you imagine, like, how many people were at the fight? 20,000? So to go and be, to get that kind of exposure and just to be at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, fight in the Garden in New York, it's unbelievable.
How did you and Don King meet up? Did he see you fight somewhere? Did somebody introduce you to him?
Jesse Robinson, who was training heavyweights for King during that era in the 90s, like basically getting all those guys ready for Tyson when he got out of prison. Yeah. Jesse was one of those guys. Jesse also trained Julian Jackson. He trained Simon. And then he trained a group of those heavyweights, and he took me to King. And, truthfully, I guess, the rest is history once I signed with King. But yeah, Jesse Robinson is the one that gets credit. He's the one that did it.
Yeah.
He took me to King. And for whatever reason, King gave me the opportunity. Nothing makes sense that he did, other than the fact I had fought in the Palace in Detroit for Jackie Callan the month before I signed with King. And I don't know if King heard that, maybe I'm going to sign Jackie, and then we fight with Aram. And he was going to jump in before that could happen. I don't know, but it was the best fit. Don King and Christy Martin. They were a better fit than Christy and I say Christy as that fighter, 'cause a way different than I really am. And Aram, I fit better with King.
Well, it definitely worked. He must have obviously seen the potential of in those fights, and that fight in particular, what you're capable of, and that you could bring a new broad appeal to women's boxing.
I think so. I mean, he kept putting me on the Tyson cards. He used me on, with Chavez, with Trinidad, lots of big cards. So I guess, he didn't give money away. I do know that.
Right.
He didn't just hand people money. So I must have been able to bring something to the show.
Yeah. But then that did change the profile of women's boxing. Could you tell the difference in women in the sport before that fight, and then afterwards?
For sure. I mean, the women that I fought to get to that fight with Gogarty, most of them had, maybe a few of them had been kickboxers before or had some kind of martial arts background, but really didn't have much boxing experience. But after the Gogarty fight, like, the quality of female boxing has just continued really to improve. And then now, by the Gogarty fight time, women were fighting amateurs. Mm-hmm. So now that young girls can start at 9 years old, and you start getting that experience at 9 years old. So by the time you get to be 22, 23 and decide to be a professional, your skill level is solid. It's way different than a 23-year-old Christy brought to the ring.
Yeah. Yeah. Having that training ground in the amateurs definitely raises the bar.
For sure.
Yeah. So was it the same year as the Bruno fight that you were featured on the first female on the cover of Sports Illustrated? Was that same year?
So right after the Bruno fight, the Bruno fight was in March, and the Sports Illustrated came out in April. So it was just that, as I said, that bloody nose got everybody's attention, and landed me on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
And then following that, I mean, you were on the undercard of all of the greats. I mean, you were on the Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Felix Trinidad, Chavez. What did you learn from being in that mix finally?
I think you learn a lot about how to handle yourself outside of the ring. I mean, you get to sit and watch those guys train, and you see them in a different limelight than like if they're just doing a media workout. You actually get, I got to be behind the scenes and see them really work. So I learned a lot that way, but I learned a lot about, I would like to say I learned a lot about what to do and what not to do, right. Even though at the end, I ended up doing exactly what I had learned not to do. And what I had said all along that I would never do, I fell right into that same trap. And I did what we see so many great fighters do.
Yeah, which was?
You fall into drugs and you end up walking away from boxing broke.
Yeah. It's tough. It's a common story, though.
Too common. And I mean, I had spoken out against drugs always, and then I thought I was going to be smart enough to hold on to my money.
Yeah.
And I had someone that wasn't working on the same team with me.
Right.
Even though I thought.
Right. So how'd you get drawn into that?
To the cocaine, I think it was just being so unhappy personally. Mm-hmm. And it was just my way to deal with the life I wasn't happy with.
Right.
And, I think so many people and fighters specifically, you get caught up in, hey, having a good time, celebrating after a fight and things like that, and maybe could lead to drug use and abuse. And then then there's that time when, kind of the lights get dim and the cheers aren't there anymore. And it's, what do I do now? And so that makes it also easy for the drug use to come in. So I just, as I said, I did exactly what I said I would never do.
Yeah.
Turn to drug and, like I said, lose the money.
Well, and part of the discontent was you were leading kind of a double life. I mean, you were successful and got lots of acclaim on the outside, but you're also being abused, and didn't really want to be married at the time, right? To who was then your husband, Jim Martin.
Right. Right. I mean, Jim was very controlling, very mentally and emotionally abusive. Anybody that was around us very long could have, and should have seen that. On the outside, like you said, I was on top of the world. I say, I was on top of the world, but on the behind the doors, the world was on top of me. Yeah. So yes, I married to a woman now, and I had girlfriends before that. But had Jim been a different man, I'm not going to say that it wouldn't have worked. I'm not. Right. I don't want people to think that everything that happened with Jim was all about sexuality. It wasn't. It was about, he was an ass, and he was mean, and he was cruel to me, and I didn't want to be there.
Right.
I didn't want to be in that relationship. And finally, when I got to the point of I'm going to get out, even though he had told me for 20 years he would kill me if I left, I was just at that point, Doug, that I didn't care.
Yeah.
If he killed me, it would, to me, really, I was already dead.
Right.
So it didn't matter to me if he killed me. So therefore, I was like, I'm going to go now.
Yeah.
And that particular day when I left, he told me, if you leave me, I will kill you. And I turned around and I looked at him and I said, do what you have to do, Jim. A couple of days later, he tried to kill me.
So how did that all go down? Because I've read stories, we've heard a lot about it. You and I've talked about it, of course. But had you come out to him before, or was that did it all just culminate? It just all happened at once?
Jim knew before we were married that I had relationships with women before. So nothing was a surprise to him. Nothing was new to him. Mm-hmm. And it didn't matter to him over those 20 years of telling me that if I left, he would kill me. He didn't say, if you leave me for a woman, I'll kill you. You can leave me for a man and you'll be fine. Don't leave me for a woman.
Right.
That's not what he said. He just said, if you leave me, I will kill you. And that's, at the beginning of the relationship, I really didn't, I kind of laughed at it. But then as time went on, and he says it over and over so many times, I started to know that, no, this is the way it's going to end. He is going to kill me.
So how did that go down? I know you told the story several times, but for our listeners and those viewers who haven't heard or aren't familiar with the details, how did that all happen?
Yeah, so, I left. Jim told me he would kill me. And then a couple of days later, I came back and I had a terrible headache. I had gone back to the gym training, and I told him I'm going to lay down for a little bit. As soon as this headache lets up, I'm going to go to the gym. Well, the headache didn't let up. And the whole time I was trying to lay down, he kept talking to people on the phone and sharpening a knife. The whole time he's sharpening a knife, I never thought this man's going to stab me, because in my mind, I knew all along he was just going to shoot me. And sharpening a knife was something he did all the time anyway. So it wasn't out of the ordinary. So he wouldn't quit talking to people. He's called my uncles and aunts and different people in boxing and telling them I'm a lesbian. I've left him for a woman and all this. And so I say, you know what? I'm just going to get up and go for a run. So I get up, I put one shoe on. He comes in the room and he says, I have something to show you. And he puts his hand behind his back a couple times. And I'm thinking, this is how crazy. I'm thinking he has a boxing contract. Somebody sent me a contract. We have a fight.
Right.
So I lean around his back. I lean around him a little bit. I look behind his back, and I can see he has a knife in his shorts. So I say to him, "What are you going to do? Kill me?" And it was like, boom! Instantly, he started to stab me. And the first couple, he stabbed me over on the side here a couple times. And the first like 3 times, I really thought he just hit me, even though I had seen the I really thought he just hit me. And then the 4th stab came through my breast. Blood then goes everywhere. So now I realized those were stabs too. So I try to get away from him. When I try to kick him off of me to get away, he cuts my calf muscle almost completely from my leg. I mean, it barely was just hanging on. And then I'm struggling. I'm trying to get away from him. He gets me into the bedroom floor, and he just starts like beating my head against the dresser. He starts pistol whipping me, cut my ear from my ear. They had to stitch my ear back onto my head.
Wow.
So one of those stabs punctured my lung. So I can hear the gurgling, and I'm fighting, trying to get away from him, and I feel a gun in his pocket. So at that point, I'm like, in my mind, I knew I had to get the clip out, or he would be able to unload a gun on me. If I got the clip, he was going to have one shot. And so we struggled a little bit over the gun, and I was able to get the clip out of the gun. And but while he was stabbing me, one of the stabs, he cut his own hand really bad. And so he stopped beating me up for a minute, and went to clean up his own cut. And just, he left me laying in there, and begging him to don't let me die. And, clearly he couldn't save me at this point. He had already gone too far.
Yeah.
So some time passes, and we have some words back and forth. And then finally he just stands at my feet with my own pink 9mm. And he's pointed at me, and I tell him, you don't have the balls to shoot me. And he shot me.
Where did he shoot you at?
He missed my heart by 3 inches.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So, and the thing was, I was laying on the bedroom floor, which of course it was carpet, but it's Florida, so it's cement slabs. So the bullet actually didn't go through me because the floor stopped it.
Right.
So, but you could feel it. It was just right there. You could take your finger and just feel it in my back. So, anyway, he shot me, and then I just remember I must have passed out, but at some point I remember looking up and just saying a prayer like, this is straight to God's ear. Help me. Let me get out of here alive. And as soon as I said that, I heard the shower water turn on. And when the shower water turned on, I knew that's my sign. I have to go. And I had tried many times to get up, but every time I would try to get up, like blood would squirt out of me. So it would scare me. I would lay back down. And finally I get up, and I take the gun, I take my car keys. Me and my craziness, I think I'm just going to drive myself to the hospital. But I get the keys, and I get to my car. It's the wrong car keys.
Oh.
So now my choice is either go back in the house, or I always say just go to the middle of the road and carjack somebody. And that's what happened. I just go to the middle of the road. The first car goes by me, and I'm cussing them out, like, I'm thinking, how can you just go by me? Blood's all over me. I need help. And then the second car comes up, and in my mind, I'm thinking, there's no way in hell I'm letting the second car go by me.
Right.
And thank goodness he didn't even try. He stopped. His name is Rick Cole. And I always say he's my angel.
Right.
And I handed him the gun, got in his back seat, and started to tell him, I'm sorry, I'm bleeding all over your back seat. Please don't let me die.
Oh my gosh.
And he called 911.
Yep.
And by the time we got to the hospital, which was only like less than 5 minutes away, the police and everybody was already there. They were waiting for me to get there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of it. I mean, I got to the hospital. It took them a while to get me stable. They had to insert tubes into my chest to reinflate my lung, which hurt like hell.
Yeah.
But they did. They got me stable. Then they life flighted me to the trauma hospital in Orlando, and kind of put me back together and made it. I'm here. God is good.
It's nearly unbelievable. I mean,
you know what? I got out of the hospital in about 10 days. I went straight to the boxing gym.
Yeah.
because where else am I going to be safe?
Yeah, right.
In my mind, there's only one thing I know. From the bed in the hospital, as soon as I woke up and started to think clearly again, I called Miguel Diaz.
Uh-huh.
And I said, asked Miguel, would he trade me? Number one.
Yep.
Will you trade me? And Miguel said, hold on. Yes, but hold on. Give me about an hour and I'm going to call you back. So within that hour, I did try to call Don King and try to get King on the phone would he promote me and give me another chance?
Right.
But for whatever reason, King wasn't going to get involved in this.
Uh-huh.
But Miguel did call back, and I ended up, as soon as I got out of the hospital, basically, I went to Vegas and signed with Aram.
Yeah. Wow. So, I mean, we met over 20 years ago, and I got the sense then that Jim was a little bit controlling and a little bit overpowering, but I just attributed it to the idea that he was your coach and he was your husband. And, that kind of goes hand in hand a little bit when you're the person in control, pulling the strings, Were the people around you, though, did they have a better sense of that this could potentially go that direction?
I think a lot of people, like the people that were the closest to me, and it was very limited because Jim decided who was going to get to be in that.
Yeah.
Yes. And he really tried to isolate me from my family. And so family was pretty much on the outside, a couple people that were solid with me through the entire thing. But they knew if they said anything against Jim, they would be out.
All right.
So it was that they want to be in, so they're not going to say anything against Jim. And some people that knew me back in the 90s might remember Big Jeff. He looked like Elvis, big guy. He was with me all the time. And his whole thing was, he told me afterwards, he said, I never said anything because I needed to be there to protect you.
Right.
And I knew if I said something against Jim, I would be out. I didn't say anything because who was going to protect you if I wasn't there?
Right.
And Jeff was my sounding board. He passed a few years ago, and he's definitely one of those guys that, man, if I just had one more hour to have a conversation with him, and not only mainly to tell him how much he meant to me, but just listen to what he would have to say about the truth. Because I know he took in a lot of truths. Yeah.
But you did continue to fight after that. You had what, two, three more fights?
I had 2 fights. I was hell bent on I want to get 50 wins. So I actually signed with Aram. I was supposed to fight in March. Now I've been shot and stabbed in late November. Yeah. And in mid-March, I'm supposed to fight on the undercard of Cotto and Mayorga. I was in Vegas sparring, and the same rib that the bullet went through, I got hit on real hard, and it broke that rib completely. Oh. So, of course, I didn't know that rib was already a little broken, or I probably would have been more cautious with the sparring, or maybe not had sparring, I don't know. But it broke it severely. And I went to, Doc Voy out in Vegas, and he says, no, this is no way it's going to be healed. And I can't even, you can't take a chance. That rib, the way it's broken, could easily puncture your lung again. So I ended up fighting on the undercard of Chavez Jr. in June, which again, that's a little funny too, because I fought on the cards with Julio, and Junior came in on Buffalo's shoulders. He was so little. So to get, I'm like, oh, wow, I think I stayed around too long. Because I fight on the cards with the dad, and now I'm fighting on the cards with the son that was a very, very young son when I was fighting. Yeah. But now you're an advocate for domestic violence, and you're very outspoken and obviously very, you're willing to share your story openly and talk about all the details. Well, I 100% believe that God left me here for a reason, and that reason is going to be to help other people and hopefully if I save one person, then I've done my job. If I can save one person, and there's my wife. I saved her too. Well,
I was just going to get ready to talk about her.
Yeah.
So
All these things.
so how does it happen that you end up you actually fought her in 2001? How does it go full circle to where I want to beat you up and hey, I think I kind of like you?
Yeah. Well, so Lisa and I fought on the undercard of Rockman Lewis too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
In Las Vegas at the Mandalay Bay. And that was the only fight that I've ever won with her, because
that was the one and only
fight that never happened. I didn't win. We actually, it's funny. I tell the whole story because there were words exchanged before the fight, during the fight. You know, he's an athlete. I'm an athlete. You know, we're strong competitors. So, but after the fight. And this is strange because I was never nice to any of my opponents.
Right.
But after the fight, I kept talking to her promoter. Like waiting on her to come out. I'm thinking that she's going to talk to me. And I don't know. I mean, there had to be something there for me to do that. But she didn't, because she was so mad that I had beaten her. To take him out. But so a few months passed, and I can't remember who was getting ready to fight. But I needed somebody big, strong, you know, and she's big, strong, tall, like 5'9", and strong as hell. So we reached out to her to be a sparring partner for me a couple times. She actually came to Florida and sparred with me, and like 3 times, I think.
Yeah.
And, you know, so we still weren't great friends. We're just like friendly. And then just started talking more and more in in 07, 06, and just she got her to come to one of my fights in Charlotte that I was promoting, and she helped me with that, and we're a great team. Like we work great together. She's like way smart, and I'm not. So we're a really good team. Like she does all the smart work, and I make sure all the other stuff kind of happens. So it works out really well. But we're a great team. We're an awesome team.
Well, it's good. It's good. It's.
If you'd like to hear the real story on that, feel free to ask me anything, Doug, because we're really we're the best of teams because our strengths lie in almost opposite ends.
That's what makes it work in all relationships.
And we have similarly strong personalities. And we're able to talk each other down when our strong personality is too strong for the situation. So we're a good fit, and I think we are both grown up enough to value the other one in a way maybe we did in our relationship 20 years ago.
Right. Well, that's common. I think you grow and you learn and.
And you realize that there's words that you shouldn't say, and that words hurt, and you learn how to fight nicer, and you know all those things that you do.
Fight nicer than you did way back in.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Definitely. You're 20 and ugly, and think you know everything. So
of course.
We came along for each other at the right time, and we're definitely 100% capable women, sort of here and here.
Right. Well, let's talk about the promotional thing a little bit. It's I love it that you're back in the game. You're helping fighters so that they don't fall into that same trap you did, where it's like you're walking into something you don't know what you're walking into. You're able to be an advocate for those fighters and really foster those guys and teach them the game that you spent so many years learning.
Yes. I mean, I think as a promoter, I'm different. Obviously, I'm going to be different than Floyd and Oscar and all those guys that come into the business with very, very deep pockets and all this money. So I am going to have to build from ground up, just like I did as a fighter. And I'm okay with that. I have a couple young guys. We have Anthony Sevilla out of Charleston, West Virginia, who can fight. And here we are. Most people look down at West Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, those guys that can't fight. This kid he has good people with him that are smart enough to know that we need to go up to Philly and spar. We need to go over to Louisville and spar. We're not going to get the kind of work we need here in Charleston, West Virginia. So I hope that he's going to be one of the faces of Christy Martin Promotions, and I'll be able to help him along and be part of his ride, right. and get to do it again, get to see the excitement that I can help him have going to Las Vegas to fight for the first time, going to probably not Madison Square Garden, but to Barclay, right. And to fight and introducing him to the champions, not just him. We also, I'm talking to this young man, Randall Feliciano from Jacksonville, Florida, 140 pounder that can punch like hell and is excited. He's going to fight on another show this weekend, I think. But, I have my eye on him. I hope that he'll come over and be part of Christy Martin Promotions. And, here and there, it's just young guys. It's going to take all of us to build it up and make it happen. Well, and
again, it's rewarding because
let me not forget. I have Jonathan Pierre. We know him as JP. He's been in some tough fights where he didn't get the decision that he should have. Yeah. But we just recently had him on in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and he's a great talent. And I look forward to that relationship building and just see how far we can go with that one as well.
Yeah. Well, again, it'll be rewarding because you'll be able to help them avoid some of the pitfalls that you couldn't avoid because you didn't know what you were walking into.
Absolutely. I think, again, I thought I was smarter, I wasn't going to make those same mistakes, but I feel like when we get that fighter that I can, it's different when somebody tells you something that they're telling you that they've walked down that path before.
Right.
It's not, they didn't read it in a book. They didn't watch it on a movie.
Yep.
They lived it. So hopefully you're exactly right. And I can help some of these young guys, financially build into a solid future as well as personally, because yes, we all want to be champion, but some of it is, let's learn how to be good people.
Right. Right. Well, and I would be remiss if I didn't also mention what we started 2 years ago, which was Christy Martin's Title Boxing Invitational. We had a great time doing that for the first time and had a great show turnout, and it was a lot of fun.
We are so excited about the Christy Martin Invitational Tournament with Title. The WBC's on board with us, but Mark Hornsby down there with the Harnett County Sheriff's Office PAL program, they do a marvelous job. And the whole community just comes on board to support what Mark's doing there with the PAL program. I think we had over 400 fighters last year. Well, not 2020, but last year, 19.
2 years ago, yeah.
But for 2021, I really think we're going to have 500 plus fighters and boxers for the amateurs. I'm excited about it. Sometimes I get more excited. I think my heart is more with the amateurs than even with the professional boxing, because I remember back to my days of having my own gym in Florida and I needed those kids. They needed me, but I think I needed them more than they needed me. And I feel like that's something that Christy's Champs is trying to partner with different PAL programs across the country to bring computers to different, to do the boxing gyms. We're bringing computers, we're bringing tutors, we're bringing mentors, and just trying to help break the cycle of domestic violence. We bring kids from a domestic violence shelter to different gyms throughout the country, and it's something we want to build this program with Christy's Champs, and it would be something that would be right beside the PAL programs.
Yeah. Well, so everybody can follow like Christy's Champs and your promotional efforts, and just you personally, what are all your social channels? Where can people hook up with you?
Well, we're just coming up with my website's just up today. The new site, ChristyMartinPromotions.com.
Awesome.
We're on Facebook, Christy Martin Promotions, Christy's Champs on Facebook as well. Instagram, Twitter. I think all those things, you can find us out there everywhere. And like I said, the Christy Martin Promotions, the boxing is just a platform because my passion is really with the domestic violence.
Yeah, good.
Awareness.
Yeah, awareness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Christy, the boxing world is lucky to have you. I'm proud to call you a friend, and now as you're promoting and an ongoing advocate of the sport, just you're a blessing to the sport. And thank you for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you so much for having me, and for sure, friends from a long time ago.
Way back.
Forever.
Yep. Take care, Christy. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching this episode of Title Unboxed. If you're anything like me, you can never get too much boxing. So if you'd like to watch more episodes, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and our Title Boxing YouTube page.